Hello everyone, I'm back to talk about the Argon8 a bit more, and this time I'm going to be going into the effects and going through how to modulate some of those. And I took a few patches and kind of made some stuff that I thought was interesting, so I'll start with those, and then we'll just kind of explore a few and see what we come up with. I've got some new ideas I wanted to try. It did. Let me see what this one is. Yeah, this one's a little crazy. But I did kind of start this out in exploring effects, and I had kind of mixed feelings about the effects because some of them are really good and some of them are not as good as I want them to be. But I have to admit that after kind of going through listening to them more, I think they're pretty solid. And I also think that the modulating them really is the key to getting a lot more out of the effects. So anyway, let's go through. Let me see how many of these I did, because yeah. So here's an interesting one. This has a weird. Let me lock this in so you can hear it. Okay, so you hear that weird kind of clicking sound. I'm gonna. So what I did was this is currently. So this is chorus, and so I think the other two are off. Oh, chorus, phaser, and that's it. So chorus and phaser on the first two. And what the heck is that clicking? So let me show you. So then I mapped LFO1. LFO1 is actually set to being pretty crazy random. Let me change the waveform. So here it's almost like clapping. So see, when it's rounded, you just get this sort of crazy, sound. But what's kind of cool is when you change the LFO shape to have something that's got an edge, you get these weird sounds. Like that. It's kind of rhythmic, and then see if I can get a few more notes in here. Kind of interesting. And then you can sweep it. And let me change the LFO rate so you can hear. Let me just do that so you can hear slower. We'll go faster here. So you could do something like this. Which is kind of interesting if you put it all the way up to 64. Get kind of some weird stuff. Get some distortion maybe. Some of you asked me for some weird stuff, so here we go. All right, enough of that. But so it was one thing I ran into is that LFO1 is one of the things that you can map to a lot of the parameter or a lot of the effect parameters. There's a lot of modulations that don't let you map them to the effect parameters. One of them, which is kind of a disappointment, which is that the mod envelope is one of the ones that I really wanted to use on them, and you can't really do that, and so that was one challenge. But I have to admit that other things like the joystick, you can map the joystick to a lot of the effects, and then also LFO1. So I'm kind of focusing on LFO1 and mapping it, and I'll show you how I mapped it after I go through this couple of these patches. So here's another one I did. This one was interesting to me because it sounds like a bunch of like gerbils or something, but here, let me lock this on here. I guess I'll put a low note in here too. I think this is the one that sounded like voices. Let me see if I can get it here. I thought this is the one that sounded like voices with distortion. Yeah. It's almost like a crowd or something. Like if you can hear, sometimes it sounds like people arguing. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, so there's that one. And let me see what the next one is, and then I'm just going to try to make some stuff up, and I hope it sounds interesting. I just want to hit a couple ones in here. I keep hitting the filter for some reason. All right, let's see this one. Oh, this was just to add different pad variation. So I'll just play some pads. That's got the it's got the reverb on it. Actually, let me check the effects. I'm sorry, I didn't do that on the last one. I'll go back and tell you what effect I used. This one's using chorus and tremolo and ping pong delay. So there's no reverb on this one. So let's listen to that. If I remember, I'll go back to that last one. I think it was chorus. So this is showing how much kind of depth you can get out of the ping pong delay. I'm finding that using the delays with the chorus, give you more drama. So if you use those two together, in this case, can't remember what modulations I did. Let me look. So this one's LFO1 to FXB. Oh, this is my basic mapping. Okay, so I'm going to show this. All right, BC, BC, BC. So I will show that. So let me just play this, and then I probably turn the depth down. I'll try it and turn the depth up. Yeah. So this one, is this one using phase? This is chorus, tremolo. Oh, I hear phasing in there, huh? Well, it's really torturing the, let me see if I can get it. This is random. Turn the depth down a little bit more. Whoops, let me turn the depth to like there, and then let me get back to a more of a decent pace, and then let me go to the shape. So here. So one thing with, I like how like, when somebody's trying to hear the sound, I decide that's when I should talk. I should really try to pick one or the other, but either way. So one interesting thing about LFO1 and LFOs in general on the Argon8 is that you can make them run super slow, which I think is cool. Like one of the rates that I use when I'm making my own patches is rate 0 on LFO1. And let me turn the depth up on this pretty high and see what it sounds like. Oh my God, this sounds horrible. Hold on, let me try this again. Okay, there we go. Now you're hearing the change of it. It's a nice, slow. I don't know if it's 8 bars. I mean, there's a 4-bar setting, but this is really like polling it like for a long time. So sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, if I want something that's more subtle than something crazy, like when you do a video like this, you kind of want to show something that's just like really nuts. The subtle things, often people go, okay, that's great, but I don't have time to listen. So the faster stuff or more tumultuous is better. So I'm going to start from scratch and show you a mapping that I do. So to explore this, and I'll try to add in the phaser as well, because a couple of you asked me about that. Wow, what's this? Oh, I think this is just a crazy one. I think this is a... Let me check what I have on this one. This one's chorus, phasers. This one has the phaser. So it's just the chorus and the phaser. Wow, that's really... I wonder why why did I save that? That's my question. I guess I was trying to show something. Let me try to add distortion and see. No, distortion's already up. Why did I save this? Let me turn the depth down. Okay, that's with the depth down. Sounds a little better. Let me change the shape now and see what we get. Okay, I'm not sure why I saved that one. Some of these I tried to save them to remember like something I was going to manipulate, like distortion or something else, and I did that one. I can't remember. It might have been the rate. Either way, there it is. So let me go to the next, or I'm going to init this actually. Just get back to a basic patch. So factory init, and I'm going to do this crazy mapping. I'm going to hold control, go into LFO1, so I'm just going to basically tap it. And then I'm going to go to Effect 1, and I'm just going to turn B up to 64. I'm going to turn C up to 64. And then I'm going to do that for each effect. So I'm going to go to Effect 2, FX2, do the same thing, B and C. And I'm going to go to Effect 3 and do B and C. And so what this does is just if you want to just kind of start to mess with seeing what it sounds like to change the effects, this will allow you to kind of swap in effects to try them out. Chorus is the one I've been using, which you can really hear. That's crazy. Let me do the phaser and see what we get. I usually like to give this something that's got some, let me give it some OSC mod. Add some filter into this, why not? I'm gonna add a little filter and let's put some depth and let's get some shape. Let's have it fade in, have it drop down, and then we'll give it some long release. Here we got. That did nothing because why? Am I not low enough? I was expecting that to cut in a lot more. Let me try this. Yeah, its filter's working. Okay. I guess it's because I just have a very round waveform, so I don't have a lot of harmonics. I guess if I brighten it up, there we go. Plenty of volume there. All right, so let's put the phaser on here, which we did. And what's happening is LFO is already like pulling it up and down. So let's see if we can get the dry wet mix is currently 0, so that's why we're not hearing anything. But we turn that up. We'll go to 90 just to try this out. Okay, so we're already clipping there. Let me bring the volume down. Try to. Okay, so what's happening is it's already messing with B and C, which is so the order of these. There's A, B, C, and then the shift goes to D, E, F. So it's like every effect has those, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F. So A in this case is usually dry wet mix. So that's something you can mess with. On the phaser, the next one is mod depth. So it's articulating or modulating the mod depth. And I can bring it down lower if I want to have less of that. And then the next one is mod rate. So I'm going to also take it to 0. And remember, the LFO is pulling this up and down, so we're going to get some of each. But it's going to be less. Okay. And now I'm going to hit shift, and then now on the next one I have frequency. So it's the frequency that the phaser is acting upon. So let's go to like 50. I want to see what that sounds like. Sounds similar. I'm going to hold it while I'm doing that. See if we can. So this is 127. Sorry about the clipping if you're getting it. Let me go down. So that one sounds kind of cool, actually. So let me, I'm going to put the LFO on that. So I've got the shift key held. So if I just tap LFO, I can turn that one as well. So that's going to also be modulating that if I did the right one. Hold on a second. Let me check that. Okay, it is frequency. Good. So let me see what this sounds like. It's kind of cool, actually. Let me actually put some, let me mess with this now. I'm going to make that a little longer, get my amp. So I'm just setting my amp to, you know, fade in, fade out. Basic stuff. Let's see that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. The reason why I think that's kind of cool is like because I didn't do anything to the voice. I'm just using a really basic voice, but the effects are adding, you know, all this stuff, which is that makes the synthesizer interesting because you can explore that to add textures that you wouldn't normally get out of the oscillators. And not everything has to be like this crazy swirly stuff, but that's just what I'm exploring right now. Let me change the rate. Let's actually mess with the rate. Let's make it fast, which is always okay. That's so there's fast, and let me bring the depth down. Well, I was talking about like texture, like if I get this where you just barely hear it, you can hear that. So let me do a low note here. We got a little bit of that, you know, I don't like it. Like I know sometimes with this sort of strategy, you get these, you know, kind of clicking, you know, kind of sounds. And sometimes that's cool if you can really emphasize it, but usually I like something that has something more subtle. But anyway, you can kind of hear that it's adding like a character. And let me see what my shape is. Okay, it is. It's the sine wave, so I would expect it to be smooth. But anyway, if you're going for something rough, let me put this on free with this. And that's one thing, the mode of the LFO obviously makes a lot of difference. So if you go to shift and you go to the mode, the three modes are single, which just runs at once. Which can be cool for changing attack and things like that. Let me see if I can. This one's really fast, so let me slow the rate down so you can hear it. Get the. Okay, it's hard to hear. Let me do usually a sixth, usually an eighth is about what I find. It works well. Boy, that one's tough to hear. I don't know if I demoed that one very well, but anyway, single will give you sometimes just one little run through it, and then the next mode over is free, which I use free probably the most. That just makes the LFO constantly running, and for stuff like this, it makes sense just to have it just constantly running. In fact, there's a lot of times where I'm doing something and going, why isn't this working? Like I'll take the ARP, for example, and I'll go, I want to do like, you know, something like this. Let's see, and then I'll do the ARP. Okay. And get the... you can't hear it because of the amp is too long. And the filter. Just messing with it here, trying to make it listenable. Scale this down. I'm gonna change the effect. You can change the effect mix. So the reason why I mentioned free was that, okay, so there's a lot of times where I'll be doing something with the ARP and I'll be wondering why the LFO1 isn't doing anything. And, you know, if you set it to free, then it will, you know, run on its own. And then you, especially when you're applying it to effects. One last thing I'm going to talk about is the overall effect setting, the FX level, and the individual effects level. So one really cool mapping that was probably my favorite is just one mapping. So let me init the sound. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add LFO1 to the effects level. So it's the FX amount. So now what's happening is, and again, I think LFO1, yeah, it goes to retrig. So I just switched it to free. Now what's cool is that this will affect the effects, all of them, all three of them, with the same curve. And I really like that because here I'm not doing anything. Let me brighten it up a little bit so we can hear something. Add some phase. Okay, there we go. Basic sound. Now, if I hit these three effects buttons, you can load an effect. And so this is one way you can just, there's 50 of them. Like, so for example, we could load up this ping pong delay. Okay. LFO is actually affecting this. So this makes it so that you're getting kind of a different, let me try to change the rate. The default rate is a little, you can't hear it. So this is taking it on and off. There, you can hear it. Okay. Now what's interesting with that is you say, okay, now let's just load up. So click these three buttons again, and let's load up something like Extreme Chorus, and then play the exact same thing. Okay, so it's a nice way just with one mapping to be able to get this effect. And like we were discovering earlier, if I change the shape, you can get really pronounced like clicky stuff. Or you can go all the way to random, get stuff like that. So, or you can leave it the default with the smooth sort of sine wave. And let's load up another couple more of these. Let's load up something that's kind of extreme, like maybe, let's try this one. Touch ambience. Where's the one like, yeah. So there you're getting a total different tonality. So you can go really fast, or you can, like I said, this is my favorite setting, is 0. You have to sit here for a while to listen to it. I'm not going to force you to do that. But when you're using this in a mix, it's cool to make really evolving stuff because the effects can do that. My only criticism of the effects, I have to bring this up because this is one of the things that you'll really run into, is controlling volume. When you're using effects, one of the things that's a challenge is volume. Right now I've got the volume a little low. I'll bring it up. Okay, so we're getting really good levels there. But watch what happens when we use like rotary. So I'm going to just go in and then put in a rotary effect. And that's rotary is to cycle the voice between channels. Okay, so right now full level because we haven't really turned it on. So let me bring that up. And then what I'm going to do is turn this. I'm turning the LFO depth to 0 just so we're not hearing that. So this is with rotary. Okay, I'll play the same. I'll turn rotary off and play the same chord. Okay. So you can see just graphically, or if you can hear it, is just you lose probably about 30% at least of volume. So I find that when I use the effects, and that's the first effect in the chain. So if you want to do rotary and then have that feed into ping pong delay and reverb, you kind of end up running out of steam. Now, one way to get more steam back that I've been finding is if you do alternate the FX level. Like if I let me hold a note and turn FX level off. See how now it has, that's full volume, and that's with effects. So you can see it's like, okay, so if I'm using this in a song, it's like, well, now I need to work on changing that, do some gain staging in order to get that volume back. But I did have fun kind of exploring these. I didn't run into anything real crazy, but I'm hoping that helped some of you see what you can do. You can have effect presets. I think there's 100 presets. They come with like 50 pre-populated, and then you can add, I think, 50 more, if I'm right. Let me check that, because I want to make sure I don't send misinformation out there. They give you... Yeah, there's 59 of them that they actually give you, and I think there's 100 total. Yeah, looks like 100. So you could mess around with those and try them out. And I think that's it. So thanks a lot. And if you have any requests or something I didn't show, let me know, and take it easy. Hope you have a great day.